All right, this is my first episode of If You Don't Know, Now You Know. And I'd just like to thank everybody for tuning in. And where should I start? I guess I'm going to start with a little bit about myself. So I'm from Los Angeles, California. And I guess, in the words of Biggie Smalls, it was all a dream. So, yeah, I was a rapper about 25 years ago. I started out in the rap game in the Los Angeles circuit. And, acquired a record deal, all that good stuff. But I just wasn't fulfilled in life, I guess, with that. Um, I like to joke with people and say I was a D-list celebrity in Hollywood. So I never made it to the plateau that I thought that I wanted to achieve. But I did live my dream. I wanted to be a rapper when I was a kid, and I got a record deal. I've done songs, been on soundtracks, all that stuff. And I'm Googleable, if that's a word. And I think it took me some time to understand what I really needed to be doing with my life, and that foundation of hip hop and striving for something and getting to where you want to go laid the foundation for what would eventually become Baba Chichi. My government name is Corey Lamont Williams, for anybody that wants to know and do all that kind of research. But now I go by Baba Chichi. And traveling the world for the last 5 years with my family has been such an eye opening experience for me. Again, this is the first episode, so I'm going to just be kind of all over the place right now, getting into what I'm eventually going to make the podcast series about, which is love, life, living, and just anything that I think you need to know to get out there and become better. That's it. It's just about becoming better. If you don't know, now you know. The world is full of things you didn't even know you needed to know. But don't worry. By the time I'm done, you'll be in the know. Welcome to If You Don't Know, Now You Know. I am the father of three children, three lovely children. I mean, they have their tantrums and their meltdowns and their moments, but three lovely children, all under the age of 10. Um, it's been quite an experience traveling the world with an entire family. Now, I've been traveling for the last 5 years now, and it's become quite an organic adventure, I guess you can say. We're just going in and out of different countries and, learning about passports and different customs and visa processes and things like that. I never wanted to travel when I was growing up. This was all kind of my wife's idea to travel. My wife is from Australia. They say Australians have island syndrome. So they just love to travel from a young age. She's been traveling since she was about 15, 16 years old. The most I traveled before I met my wife was to from Los Angeles to I don't know. I went on a senior trip to Cancun, and that was in 1999. And then me and the homies went to Rosarito, Mexico every now and then. But I was not an avid traveler at all. I didn't want to travel the world. I didn't want to see new places. I didn't want to meet new people. I felt like I live in Los Angeles, and everything that you do in the world eventually has to come through Hollywood if it's going to be super duper successful. Now, that is a naive way of thinking. And after actually going into the world and seeing different places like Thailand, Malaysia, Kenya, Zanzibar, China, it's mind blowing. And I honestly didn't ever expect that I would enjoy anything like that. We spent a year in Egypt, on the West Bank of Egypt, in Luxor, Egypt, and it was honestly, it was a transformative moment in my life. I made sun bread. I grew wheat with people. I hung out with locals. I went to horse dances. I learned customs and traditions. And when you're traveling, you're exposed to more things than just food and culture. I got to meet people from different religious backgrounds. I got to meet people from different ethnicities that I had never ever mingled with before. Although I like in Hollywood doing my thing, it's rare that I meet people that are really culturally diverse in a sense. You know, being a black rapper from Los Angeles, my circle was surrounded by other rappers or other singers. Yeah, you get your occasional, like, oh, this person's from here, this person's from there. But we're not talking about religion and we're not talking about the politics of their country. We're talking about a song, getting a song done. That's it. After the song is done, we leave and go our separate ways. Most of the time, when people do travel the world, they're in my eyes considered tourists. They go for 2 weeks, they have an itinerary, they go see some sights and sounds, and then they're back home to their 9 to 5. 2 weeks is not enough to actually see a country to me. To me. Some people might be different, but to me, I don't think that's enough time to actually see a country and learn a country. You know, I'm a traveler. I'm not a tourist. When I go somewhere, I spend at least 3 months in that place, and I learn everything I can through the locals. You know, I'll go down the street. I'll go to the vegetable market. I'll go to the local schools with my kids. I'll put them in the soccer teams. I'll put them in places where they have to be exposed to wherever we are. It's so crazy that a lot of people they travel and they say, "Oh, I'm going to Guam. They don't speak English." No, they don't speak English in Guam. Maybe they do. And you go to China. Oh, I can't go there. They don't know how to speak English. I know my mom says that sometimes. Like, Mom, if you go into China, they're not supposed to be able to speak English. You're supposed to learn a little bit of Mandarin. You know, so it's like, what do I need oranges for? That's the language, Mom. It's not actually a Mandarin. It's the language. It's called Mandarin. But you have to understand a traveler and a tourist are two different, completely different things. A tourist is going to go, like I say, on an itinerary. They're going to like see the main sites that you can see on YouTube and all the things you see on Instagram, and then they're going to get back on their bus, go to a lunch. A bunch of people are crammed into the lunch and then they go home, and then they have a bunch of pictures and photos they've taken, and little video clips and stuff, but they didn't really live in the place. Now, a traveler, you're living in a country. You walk down the street, you say hello to people, you learn the different language. You know, I believe in when you get to a country, excuse me, saying, let's learn a little bit about their actual language. So here's my key to languages. When you go to a different country, learn up, down, left, right, go, stop, good morning, good afternoon, good night, and how to address your elders. If you can learn those few things, you'll be a lot better off in a lot of countries. Sometimes I just say like "ni hao" in China, and they were just like, "Wow, you speak Chinese?" No, I don't speak Chinese or Mandarin. I don't speak Mandarin. But I learned how to say hello, you know, or you go "konnichiwa" and you're in Japan or something. Yeah, no, I don't know how to speak Japanese, but when you learn a little bit of the language, it goes far. It goes very far because the people are looking at it like you're taking initiative to actually be involved in their community and be involved in their circle and be involved in their lifestyle and be involved in their country. Habari Yako. When I was in Zanzibar and I said this, I got so much love. Again, I grew up in Los Angeles, California. We have our places that we go that are Black communities. Like my mother lives in the Crenshaw district, and my pastor of my church used to live in the Crenshaw district. So we had our Black communities, Ladera Heights, where a lot of my friends were from. But realistically, I grew up in a white society, and that's just how it was. The first time that I ever saw a Black person holding a Coca-Cola can or a Pepsi can that wasn't Jay-Z or Beyonce or some rapper was in Africa. And it was mind blowing. You grow up in a bubble, per se, in a society where everything is kind of dictated for you and everything. And this is not me saying, oh, America's bad or anything like that. I just believe that traveling will expand your mind more than you think. So when I said habari yako, which means like, hey, how you doing? And what's up in Swahili, I was greeted by people of my same skin color that understood that I'm trying to learn something new, that I'm trying to get out there and learn. What up, Ulu? Ulu Fatshaka, she taught me a lot about Swahili and how to learn. Her husband, Dilly, and their precious daughter is my goddaughter through traveling. It's just a beautiful thing to do. That's what I'm going to say. Traveling is beautiful. Again, in this podcast, I want to get into traveling, how to travel, um, knowing things about things that you never thought you would know. Like, let's talk about NFTs. Let's talk about crypto. Let's talk about AI. Let's talk about these things because the new generation is here. And if we don't learn these things, or someone's not trying to help you learn or your kids learn, they'll get left behind. I remember when a CD player came out, and my dad had no idea what a CD was. Neither did I. We literally took the CD and put it on a record player and tried to play it because we had no idea what a CD was when my dad got his first CD. He's used to having A tracks, tapes, and records, and that was it. And I always remember that us playing. It's fun. I mean, I always remember that us trying to play a CD on a record player, and I never wanted my kids to experience anything like that. Like, Dad, what's an NFT? I don't know. It's Smurf. I don't know what it is. Like, no, I need to let them know it's a non-fungible token. Daddy, what's Bitcoin? What's crypto? No, it's not a crypt with a rag wrapped around his toes. No, it's crypto. It's a currency, and kind of I want my kids to know these things because the world is moving at a faster rate than ever right now. It's getting crazy. I mean, a 8-year old kid right now can start some project on YouTube, and if he gets the right amount of attention behind it, he can generate income. And I wish when I was 8 years old that I could have generated income from my ideas because I felt like I was a very creative and artsy kid. But there was no YouTube. There was barely the internet. I mean, the internet came out in 1989, or like, well, I don't know. Al Gore might argue that. But that's when the World Wide Web was pretty much developed. And then in 2004, that's when YouTube came out. So there was no monetization programs. There were things that existed, but you had to be in the know or have money to even take part in those things. I didn't grow up with a lot of money, and I didn't grow up in an affluent society. So the opportunities that I had came from my mother and father's knowledge of what they knew. Financial education is a big thing. And if you're not financially educated or come from a family where money is a subject matter, then you just kind of live paycheck to paycheck and you just live life like that. So, again, If you don't know, now you know. I really want to start helping people to understand, it's all about being better. Like, better what? Like, if you're living your best life and you're hanging out and you don't have, cut this off right now. You don't need to listen to me. You don't need to listen to any podcast. You're living your best life. You're living your dream. If you're not, I mean, you can stay tuned if you want. I would suggest you stay tuned. But always strive to get better. Always try to redefine yourself. As good as you think you are, there's always a better. If you're a really good runner and you can run a marathon, great. But you can always get better and beat that time. You know, Roger Bannister, for those of you who don't know, is the man who ran the mile in under 4 minutes. Before he ran the mile in under 4 minutes, no one had ever done it in the world. Once he did, I mean, arguably. I mean, it's probably some dudes in Kenya and some dudes in Ethiopia that was running like 2 minute miles to get through their village. Yeah, for sure. But they weren't they weren't recorded and documented in the history books or anything. And now let's go to Roger Bannister in America. He was the first person to do it. After he did it, everybody could do it because it just takes one person to do it. We can go into the moon landing and all that. Once somebody got on the moon, after sending a bunch of dogs up in Russia versus the US and race to the moon, then we were able to get to the moon. I don't know why we haven't been back to the moon since. We'll get into all that. I'm not a conspiracy theorist or anything. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, whatever. I'm not into conspiracies or anything like that. But I do want to just, talk about stuff, things. Because if you don't know, now you know. I've got some cool travel hacks that I'm going to share with you. Some educational financial tips that I think can broaden your horizon. And I'm also going to bring in people from these specific fields that are going to actually talk about their job, their craft, what they do, how to do it. A lot of people are just not in the know. Again, if you don't know, now you know. You're going to know after this show. Um, I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. Again, this is the first episode of the show, and I'm very excited. The music is done by Luke Skywalker. What up, Ronnie? And each week, I'm going to bring a new and exciting topic to you. I don't know how many episodes I'm going to put out a week or anything like that, but I'm definitely going to put out one episode a week. Um, we're just going to, vibe. That's it. I think everything starts with a vibe. Uh, Having three children, parenting, traveling, being in entertainment, it all coexists. Everything coexists. We're going to get into spirituality a little bit. I'm not going to preach too much to you or anything, but I just, I want everybody to know it's one big phantasmagoria in a sense, and it's just you have to figure out what's good for you, what you want to do with life, how you want to live life, and how to be better. Better yourself. If it's financially, if it's physically, if it's mentally, if it's anything you can think of, you can always be better. Now, if you're just the best at it, you're Little Wayne of it, Kendrick Lamar, you just LeBron James, and I don't know. I don't know where to go from there. But you are the ceiling. But for most people, you want to be better, and as good as you think you are, there's always somebody out there better. I learned that from somebody a long time ago. As beautiful as you think you are, as great as you think you are, good as you think, whatever. There's always somebody who's worked a little bit harder that's just doing a little more. All right, I don't really know how to sum up everything that I just said. Again, this is just like the first show. I'm just like getting it all out there, what I'm gonna try to talk about, what I'm gonna try to do. And my father taught me to do everything. And that's what I'm gonna try to do on this show. I'm gonna try to do everything. I would love if you hit the subscribe button on my YouTube page, my Instagram page. Give this a like. On YouTube, it's Baba Chichi's Big Adventures. That's my YouTube channel. And on Instagram, it's me, Baba Chichi. That's the handle. And we're just gonna deep dive into everything. Now, my first call to action for you is to get ready to do what you came to do. And what did you come to do? Because if you don't know, now you know.